One new business to experience firsthand just how quick Australians are to adopt new technology is ride-sharing platform Uber.
Australia is a critical market for Uber globally. What we see is that Australian consumers are certainly front of the queue when testing new things. And so that means that Uber has certainly been very willing and excited to bring new products here. It certainly is a nod to the quality of the business and to the local consumer that Uber sees the Australian market as a key test bed for new products. We launched in 2012 with a pretty simple promise, and that was click a button, get a ride. And over the years since then, we've added new things to our mobility service, public transport integration, moving pets, e-mobility, scooters and bikes. And of course, we've added a food delivery service. And so increasingly, we're becoming an app that's an urban companion.
I feel incredibly fortunate that so many of the new Uber products get tested here, and I get to try them out before my friends back in the United States. The fact that they are willing to invest, interested in collaborating, and that the Australian government comes back with similar enthusiasm to find new ways to move people around our country and to provide employment opportunities is very exciting.
During the pandemic, Uber has had a crucial role to play. At a time when rank upon rank of taxis gave up, Uber provided an essential service.
What we've seen is that really the crisis has driven a great deal of innovation. What we've been able to do for local e-commerce in providing them with a solution in getting products to their consumers at home, what we've been able to do in terms of launching new parcel products to help people send objects to their loved ones that might be outside of their travel radius, what we've been able to do for drivers and delivery partners in terms of getting essential PPE in their hands, in terms of sharing information with them on how and when they can move around cities, in really helping people to understand a very complex couple of years. Perhaps most exciting for me, most recently, is how we have been able to support Aussies during this period of lockdowns. What we can see is that when people use the Uber mobility app, they're moving to vaccination centres, they're moving to essential places of work.
For Australians like Melissa Hess, the opportunity to work as an Uber driver partner could not have arrived at a better time. Melissa was working in retail when the pandemic hit.
It dried up completely. I had no more work with the shop. It closed down, and I just continued on full-time with Uber after that.
A single mum of 3 children, Uber enabled Melissa to work around the needs of her family.
I'm a full-time carer for my son, and he definitely has good and bad days. Sometimes he's only at school 3 out of the 5 days a week, but then other times he goes weeks without any issues.
Ultimately, it's the flexibility that Melissa and her family rely on.
That was the only thing that I didn't have to worry about when he was in hospital, was how I was going to work around his needs.
When the impact of COVID put pressure on the ride-sharing side of the business, Uber was quick to pivot.
Uber did help us out quite a lot too. They offered us to do Uber Eats as well. So when we turned on our app, we had the option of taking riders as well as doing some deliveries and some courier work as well.
We knew from the sort of the get-go that restaurants would need more support than they'd ever needed. And so we implemented a number of investments and measures early on in the pandemic to help restaurants with that. And so an example being firstly that we introduced a $5 million relief package for small to medium-sized restaurants to assist with additional demand generation during the early stages of the pandemic. We introduced daily payments to help restaurants with their cash flow. We also reduced our marketplace fee, so the fee we charge to restaurants, to make our services more affordable. And we introduced zero-cost pickup so that restaurants could service their existing customers in a contactless way at absolutely no cost to them. And finally, we introduced new technology and innovation. And so one good example of that is we quickly rolled out, I think it was in the matter of the first few weeks of COVID, the ability for restaurants to use their own staff to perform the delivery.
In San Francisco, Uber's global CEO, Dara Khosrowshahi, is proud of how the business reacted to the challenges posed by COVID.
It's been a very tough time. for us and I think for the world. You know, our mainline business is the business of mobility, and after the pandemic in the early days, our business overall was down 85% versus normal volumes. That's quite a hit. So we immediately turned to making sure that drivers who are out there were driving safely. If they felt ill in any way, shape, or form, we take care of their pay until they could get better. We then turned to really helping frontline workers, healthcare workers have access to transportation. The secondary effect of people staying home was that our Uber Eats business and our grocery business started growing at incredible rates, doubling, more than doubling on a year-on-year basis.
In the US or globally?
Globally. I mean, it's people were staying home, they want to push a button, have food show up, or grocery, et cetera, show up. So as we're coming out of the pandemic, what we're seeing, which is interesting, is the mobility business is coming back, but the habits that consumers developed during the pandemic of getting food, fresh food at your doorstep within 30 minutes, that habit seems to have stuck. And I think coming out of the pandemic, Uber will be stronger than it ever has been, both in terms of mobility and in terms of delivery.
Uber illustrates how American investment and enterprise has found a way to transform lives in Australia. But increasingly, there is a two-way investment story, with Australian businesses finding a way to expand into the American market.